There are many things about running for office that I dislike. Raising money, I find asking for money to be uncomfortable. Which, by the way, if you happen to want to send us a few bucks, please go to justforassembly.com and click the donate button. Why speak of hating to ask for money? The other thing is, I don't like repeating myself, but in politics, that is required. So, in order to get your message out, in order for people to hear it, you have to say it a number of times and you have to say it in a number of different ways. And so, those two things you can't get around of, you can't get out of. But there are a couple other things about running for office that you don't have to do. And one of those things is you don't have to criticize your opponent. You don't have to become negative. You don't have to insult people. It's not really necessary to run for office. And we don't do that here. And we have been lucky in this particular race where that hasn't been necessary on anybody's account. And there was another thing that I dislike running for office, and it now escapes my mind. It's a Friday night, just me, same as everybody else, and we all get burnt. What was the other one? No, she doesn't remember either. It's okay. Don't worry about it. There's a handful of things as we run for office that we don't like to do. We don't like to criticize our opponents. We want to stay positive. We want to talk about what we are for. We don't like asking for money, even though it's kind of required, at least on a small scale. You don't have to go cash big checks to do that. And the other thing is at the end of the campaigns, people often make goofy promises. That was the other one. Yeah, it's been a long Friday. I apologize. So you've got these 4 things that are kind of required to run for office that I personally don't like doing. 2 of them are required. They're part of the job and you accept it, right? You have to raise at least some money. And unless you're independently wealthy, that means asking people for money. You don't have to ask interest groups. You don't have to ask organizations. You don't have to ask big businesses. But you still have to ask for money. Then you don't like repeating myself. This is a personal one where I don't like repeating myself. And that's kind of required with the job. You have to tell everybody what you want to do, what you're about, and you have to do it a number of times. But that's required, and okay, fine. But you don't have to be negative, and you don't have to make false promises. And that's what we do here. So we stay positive. We stay what we're about. We're not running against somebody. We're running for a job. And so we don't have to talk about the other person. It's not really relevant about what we want to get done. And we don't have to make false promises because if you're anything like me, I'm tired of them. I'm tired of listening to politicians promise me utopia after utopia when I know they're full of it. There's no such thing. Frankly, I'm tired of politics that's always a fight. I'm fighting for this. We're fighting for that. How about we just work towards a common goal? Work towards finding solutions to real problems. Why is everything a fight? When you fight, someone has to win. Someone has to lose. Things get broken, things get damaged, and we end up in a worse place. We're not enemies. We're citizens. It's just a bigger family. Yeah, we have disagreements, just like every family. We have different views on how things should be done, just like every family. But we should still love each other. And so what do we want to do here? We've talked about it all the time. We want organic communities. We want communities back in control of themselves. We want family safety nets to be re-honored and reimagined for the modern day. They don't have to look the way they looked 100 years ago, but the desire, the goal of the family safety net should still be honored. There's experience. There's lessons there. We've all become more disconnected because we've lost that connection. We need criminal justice reform, real criminal justice reform that can be trusted by the citizens. That means taking investigations of police abuse completely out of law enforcement and giving it to, say, an ACLU-led group that can deal with investigations and prosecutions. We need to reimagine what we ask our police force to do. We can't complain about police abuse while continually criminalizing all of society. We can't have a crime and punishment mindset and then say, hey, why do we have abusive police? We've done that to ourselves. We can change that ourselves. We want an education that works for individual students, not for the system. Doesn't mean I don't believe in the public education system. I do. Education is the most important thing you can do for yourself, for your family, for your community, for the world. But it doesn't mean you have a one-size-fits-all education system. I think COVID-19 has shown that there are many ways to educate a child, and our goal should be the best way for each individual child. Each individual child should have an individual lesson plan that the system caters to the child, not the child and families catering to the system. We have it backwards. We need to end the drug wars, demilitarize police, and quite frankly, demilitarize government. But the most important thing we need to do is to re-engage the populace. Interest groups, businesses, activists, unions, they all play far too big a role in what happens under the dome. And yeah, that's actually the direction of the state capitol, by the way. When I point over my shoulder, it is the actual direction. There's a benefit to having the state capitol in your district. You can talk directly to your people. The people can show up at your place of business every day and hold your feet to the fire. And I've shown here, I'm not afraid to come talk to you every day. Every question that gets asked that is able to go personal, go public, I answer them publicly. We talk about it here. I don't always tell you who initiated the conversation, but they usually start from somewhere. Average people don't deserve to get put on public blast, but it doesn't mean you can't answer the questions publicly. Transparency is not just a concept. It's a way of life. It's a way of governing. It's a way to rebuild trust. And that's what we really need. We need to rebuild trust. It's not about what policies we're going to pass. It's not about any of that thing anymore. It's about a toxic politics that no longer works and rebuilding trust so we can actually fix things. Because we can't fix things until we rebuild trust. Because no one's going to trust your fixes. And the only way to rebuild trust is through transparency. That's it. There's no other way. Otherwise, it's just promises. And we've all heard too many. It's time to vote for people who are different. It's time to vote for people who are willing to go against the powers that be. Be it their own party, be it special money interest, be it the media. Because the only people whose power should matter is yours. I'm not asking to be your leader. I'm asking to be your representative. And that's a different thing. And far too many elected officials have forgotten that. So thank you for your time. Enjoy your weekend. And please remember to love everybody.